To you. Did you have a nice day off? All right. Did you get a little rest? Woo! Did you get a little work done? Woo! A little bit of all those kinds of things. That's good. That is good. I'm sure not many of you sat still, but I hope it was a good day for you. You know, I was listening to a friend of mine who happens to be an Old Testament professor, and he was talking to his wife one day about this idea in Psalm 46. His wife said, you know, I've been working with this verse. It says, to be still and to know that I am the Lord. So she looked at her Old Testament husband and she said, what does this mean? Does be still kind of mean to sit down and to be quiet? And he said, actually, not at all. He said, it's not about sitting still. This idea of being still is this idea of being willing to let go in our lives, to abandon ourselves to the work of God in our lives. And so it's not necessarily a verb where there's no motion. It's actually a verb where it calls us to continue to move forward, to continue to pursue Him as He works out life in us. We're going to explore that kind of thing today. And I want to invite you to stand as we begin that time. And I want to invite you to give yourselves to worship this morning. Let's continue to worship the Lord in and through music.
Hey, good morning, TFC. Scriptures tells us that we are made alive in Christ. As we begin this song, I want us to focus on the words and how it is no longer we who live because Christ dwells within us. Let's sing from beginning. From beginning to the end, all my life is in your hands. This whole world may hold me down, but it can never drown you out. I'm not merely flesh and bone. Oh, I was made for something more. You are God, you're the great I am. Breath of life, I breathe you in. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. You are strong in my brokenness, sovereign over every step. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. Sing through the dark. Through the dark, I hear your voice. Rising up, I will rejoice. For I was lost, but now I'm found. 'Cause even death can't hold you down. You are God, you're the great I am. Breath of life, I breathe you in. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. You are strong in my brokenness, sovereign over every step. Even in the fire, I'm alive in you. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. Christ who lives within me. From beginning to the end, Lord, you deserve the glory. You deserve the glory. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. Christ who lives within me. From beginning to the end, you deserve the glory. The Savior knelt to wash our feet. Now at his feet we bow. The fear that held us now and to him majesty. The radiance of perfect love that shines for all to see. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. The fear that held us now gives way to him who is our peace. His final breath upon the cross is now alive in me. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The tomb where soldiers watched in vain was borrowed for 3 days. Its body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the grave. Your name is victory. Oh, praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. Oh, praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me.
God, I just thank you for life, for life abundant. I just pray that you will keep our hearts focused on you, our minds focused on you, as we praise you throughout the rest of the day. I pray that you will keep our hearts focused on what it is that you have to tell us this morning. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, you may be seated. You know, not all of us are a part of the Christian and Missionary Alliance, but one of the cool things about TFC is that as a school we are. And even though we're not a part of it, all of us together, one of the things that I really enjoy about being a part of the Alliance here at TFC is that we get a steady flow of folks from the Alliance who come through. We get to meet them. We get to spend some time with them. We get to hear about their lives. We allow them to speak into ours. And over the last 3 years, I've enjoyed having Melissa MacDonald come each year and to share a message with us. She normally comes in the fall, but this past fall she had some knee surgery. Matter of fact, she's getting ready for a second knee surgery this coming fall. And so I wasn't quite sure we were going to be able to get her in so that she would be able to come and to share with us, but we were able to find a time here in the spring. Now, if you don't know Melissa, maybe you're new to hearing about Melissa. She is a children's discipleship specialist in the Alliance, and she spends her time really leading and investing in leaders all over the world, helping to prepare a new generation for what it looks like to live and to follow and to walk with Jesus. So we're excited to have her here today. Let's invite her and let's welcome her to the stage.
Thank you.
I will.
Okay, great. All right, good morning. Did I turn it on? Did I do it wrong? Is it? I don't think it's my fault. Is it on? Oh, good. Oh, well, good morning. I'm so glad to be here. I also have to correct you, Chris, because I did not just have a little knee surgery. They took out a joint and put a new part in. That is not. Well, I'm still not happy. Anyways, I had knee replacement. Okay, I had a knee replacement in November, worst experience of my entire life. I prayed for death and the Lord's return, and none of that happened. So I have survived, but I still hate it. And you'll see when I'm done speaking, just don't watch me go down the stairs because I'm like a 95-year-old woman. And sadly, the younger you are, the harder it is to recover from this surgery. And so, like, these 75-year-old ladies come in, and they're like, oh, I just had mine last week. I'm doing great. Meanwhile, I'm on crutches for 3 months, and I hate them, and I trip them with my, no, I don't, but I want it to. Anyways, I'm so excited to be back with you guys. How many of you know me or have heard me speak or whatever? Okay, I thought, like, yay, we're friends. Can I tell you something that you're really famous for doing? And TFC does it more than any other place I go to. You send me an Instagram message or Facebook or something, you're like, I always love when you come, but you never come and speak to me, ever. None of you do, so it's so rude. So this is what because then I come and I walk around campus, like the new kid on campus, nobody talks to. And you all know me, and you're like, oh, there she is. Let me just go the opposite way. So I'm gonna be on campus a little bit today. It'd be awesome if you would say hello in person. or, comment on Instagram, that works too. I have it right up here, so you'll let me know. I'd be happy to meet you guys face to face. But I am excited to be back. Part of the reason I didn't come sooner was I was in the love bubble. Have any of you ever been in the love bubble? This could be awkward if you're sitting next to your significant other right now. you're in the love bubble. So I started dating this guy a year ago. We just got married. I know, guys. I know, and I have to tell you, if you don't believe that God still does miracles in today's modern age, you're wrong. Because the very fact that I am married is like, God's like, I still do miracles. So it is a miracle, and it's pretty awesome. I'm so glad that we're married. I really hated planning the wedding with a passion. Some of you women don't understand me because you've been planning your wedding your whole life and you're not even dating anyone, but you're like ready to go. I was not, and so I hated almost every moment of the planning, but I love being married. And I didn't bring any pictures because most of you stalk me on social media. So if you go to Melissa MacDonald on Instagram, there's a ton of photos. And we just got them all back yesterday, and they're so precious. But anyways, I'll share more on Instagram so you can find me on there. But I did just get married, so that's pretty amazing. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is this idea of waiting forward. And waiting forward sounds really weird because it sounds like an inactive verb right alongside like an active thing. And it's actually hand in hand. So I remember being in college. How many of you are in college? Good, good. Like, I know you didn't have class yesterday. I just want to make sure you're awake. How many aren't sure you're going to finish the semester and actually pass? Okay, good. I'm praying for you. So I was in college, and it was in between my junior and senior year. And I was actually in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had an epiphany, and I was not the smartest, cookie in the jar or whatever. I don't know what that phrase is. Anyways, that just confirms how not smart I am. And so I had this epiphany. It was the summer, and all of a sudden I went, I'm single. And honestly, it was like this major aha moment where I was like, oh no. And I had this huge what is happening? And I remember I began to fight with God because I was like, God, this was not part of the plan. Like, I thought you go to college and you meet someone and you go sit on that special bench, and then it means that, that's the progression. And so I knew I wanted to be a missionary. I knew I was called to that, and I never wanted to do it alone. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I'm single. And it does not seem to be changing anytime soon. Because I don't know about your college, but my college, we had a lot of weirdos going there. And so most of the guys were either taken or strange. There was one guy, no joke, he named his guitar amp after me. And he played air guitar, all the time. And he'd be like, no. So I was like, oh my word, I'm single, and it doesn't look like it's changing. And so I began to fight with God, and I told him how very upset I was with him, which, can I just tell you, you trying to hide your feelings from God is hysterical, okay? God is completely aware of where your heart is at, and we're afraid to tell him, but he sees all. So he was not like, oh, my child, I had no idea. I mean, God's like, I know, I knew this was coming. I was like, Lord, this was not part of my plan. I want to be a missionary, and I want a husband. This is good planning. I'm a good planner, Lord. And then I was like, but it's not happening. And so I had this fight with God, and I'm in this hotel room, and I always find hotel room carpet very suspect. And you know that it's a true surrender when I was on my face on the carpet, because I literally had to get on my knees. That was back before I was completely crippled and could do things like that. Now I can't get out of my car without significant help. So, and so I'm on my face and I'm on my knees and my hands are out and I'm fighting with God, and I know I need to surrender, and I'm going back and forth, and finally I'm like, fine. Okay, God, I will give this to you. I will give this to you, and I will continue to pursue you even if I'm alone, even if I'm not married. I'm going to give it to you. And then I took it back for a minute, and then I gave it back because I was like, well, that's hard. Okay, but you can still have it. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to run hard after you, and I'm going to trust that you have a plan for me. Now, I don't know about you, but I had some pretty inept theology, and I had these ideas that God would, because I said that, he'd be like, ha, 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 single for life. Like, I really thought that, and some of you guys believe that too, that if you surrender something to God, he's going to be vindictive, and we don't serve a vindictive God. We don't serve a God who goes, I finally got you, now your life will be miserable for the rest. Like, that's not what God promises. I also thought God would give me an ugly man. Like, I thought if I do get married, this is true, I thought I would probably be about 80 in the nursing home and reach over and be like, let me put your teeth in for you, and let's get married, okay? And they thought they'd be ugly, but not in a like super ugly way, but in one where everyone else is like, oh, bless their heart. Bless her. Everybody needs to find beauty somewhere. Bless their heart. Like, that's what I thought. So it was such a shock to me when my husband, and I didn't really care what he looked at when we first started talking, because I was like, I really, at this point in my life, if you don't love Jesus, I'm not interested. I'm like, I've waited a long time. I'm not going to mess this up. And so then all of a sudden I started dating him, and I was like, oh, he's very attractive. And he is. All the 65-year-old ladies in our church think he is a hottie. Which is concerning on a number of levels, but we let it go. He's super cute, and I was like, Lord, really, you would do that? But here's the deal. We serve a God who loves to lavish us with blessing. And we often live in this posture of that we serve a God who withholds things from us, and he doesn't. And God was like, of course I'm going to lavish you, and I'm still blown away by it. I'm still blown away that God would choose to give blessings to me, because I don't know about you, but I'm not perfect. But that's the beauty of it. God's not looking for perfection. He cares about our heart. And I love how God is just surprising me with these blessings that I never thought I would have. And yet, if we read in Malachi, it says that, it says, I have the storehouse of blessing. And all you have to do is ask, and I will open the storehouses of heaven and pour out a blessing so great, nothing could contain it. And a lot of us live withholding ourselves from any blessing that God desires to give us. So in this waiting period, I said, okay, God, I'm going to wait. But here's the funny thing. Often when we think waiting, we think of standing still. But it's not a standing still posture. Like if you're waiting for the bus, that's one thing. But often, and actually I have yet to find a biblical character who didn't have a period of waiting in their story. So if you feel like you're in a period of waiting right now, you are in good company. And your period of waiting might suck. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that in here. Is there a trap door or anything? But it might really be horrible, and you might really hate where you're at right now. Some of you are like me. Maybe some of you might be freshmen too and be like, I'm not married yet. Relax, okay? It's fine, all right? Give yourself a break. But for some of you, you genuinely are like, but Lord, what are you doing? And then the other thing that some of you are going to do is you're going to settle, because you're going to go, God's plans are a little too hard for me, so I'm just going to settle. But you are probably in a period of waiting. Some of you aren't sure what you're doing for the summer. Some of you are legitimately not sure you're going to pass the semester. God bless you. Work on that. Studying is really important. But some of you are just going, God, I know. Some of you are about to graduate, and you have no idea what you're going to do with your life, and it terrifies you. You're in a good spot. It's okay. In fact, in Hebrews 11, which is one of my favorite, probably my favorite chapter in the Bible, it's the chapter of faith, where it lists all the great men and women of faith who are considered faithful. And I read it and I go, oh my word, they made it in there? Have you ever done that? It's amazing. Rahab made it. She made some poor life choices, okay? Let's just leave it at that. Rahab made it. There's all these people that made it into the great faith chapter that encouraged me, because faith is not so much about living and then having this great faith moment and suddenly you're considered faithful. Faith looks a lot like being faithful every single minute. Every day, putting one foot in front of the other. Going, I don't understand, but I'm going to keep going. But if you look at that, there's person after person. You have Abraham, who is told by God, go, Abraham, to the land I will show you. That's not my plan ever. Like, just start walking, and I'll tell you when you're there. I'm going to need a destination. But he goes. But here's the deal. He's waiting while moving forward. Do you catch that? He doesn't say, Lord, I'm going to be here when you're ready to tell me where I'm going. God's like, no, go, and I will show you. Period of waiting. We have Sarah, who was like 998,000 years old when she had a baby. That's not true, but she was old, okay? She was very old. She was well past the point where she should be allowed to have a baby. And God had promised her that she would have a kid, right? And she has this period, she's still got to do her life, and she has to wait. You look at Joseph sold into slavery, and I guarantee you he was waiting for something good to come out of the mess that his life was. And God was faithful, and it came about, but he didn't just sit and wait. So often, waiting does not mean just sitting. And I know a lot of you pray like this, God, I need you to tell me exactly what you want me to do. And then you're like, God never speaks to me. here's the deal. If you are in the Word, if you're seeking wise counsel, guess what? God gave you a brain. And you can make a lot of really wise decisions on your own that God will bless. Now, if you go, okay, God, I'm going to steal cars all summer, could you bless that? He's probably not gonna, okay? In fact, I think I see like a large dog biting you in your future or something. But if you go, God, I have these two really great options before me, I don't personally believe you can pick a wrong choice. If you're in the Word, if you're seeking wise counsel. And so some of you need to stop waiting for God to speak directly to you and go, God, by faith, I'm going to start walking forward. By faith, I'm going to do that. And that's hard. It's hard. You look at Moses, he was in the desert for how many years? 40. That's a lot of waiting. They didn't just stay in one place. If you map it out, though, they just did a lot of circles. Like, they didn't make a whole lot of progress either. The Israelites, they finally get to the promised land, and it's Jericho, and they have to walk around it for 7 days. That's waiting while still accomplishing something, while still moving forward. How do you wait for something without standing still? You move forward while trusting God. Anyone ever done the trust walk where you're blindfolded? Anyone? Okay, does anyone hate that as much as I do? What is the matter with people? Like, I hate it. And I will fully admit one of my big issues is control. So I do not like to be blindfolded. And, okay, somebody's going to lead you. Now, I work with kids. So usually it's a child. And the whole, a little child shall lead them from Isaiah, that's about Jesus, okay? That's not about actual children. So it's a little terrifying. But what you do, and I love doing this with kids because it's such an important trust thing, is you blindfold them and someone's going to lead you. And you have the kids that are so funny because they're like, okay. And they don't pay attention to what anyone says, and they're the kid that run into a tree every time. Then you have the kid who can't move. They're paralyzed. They're like, I can't, and then they cry because they're children, okay? I can't do it. Then you have the kid like me who just slowly peaks and then it does great. Like they win the whole thing because I don't care about trust, I care about winning. And so I will cheat. I will cheat. In fact, my husband blindfolded me the other day to show me a surprise he had in the garage, which was like a clean car. It was not exciting, but his idea of fun and mine are very different. And so, you know, and he purposely put his hand down here because he's like, I know you, you're peeking. I was like, dang it, 6 weeks into the marriage and he's got me figured out. So I'm gonna find a new way to cheat. So, but you've got these and they go, okay, and then you're supposed to trust and it's scary. But can I challenge you on this? No part of the Christian life is meant to be super fun all the time. It's supposed to be a little scary. And if it's not scary, I wonder if you're actually walking in the center of God's will. I really do wonder that because fear and uncertainty is what we need because it takes us right back here. It takes us back to Christ. And that's where we need to be. Now, you don't want to live there all the time and you won't. But those periods of waiting, those periods in the dark, those periods of wondering what God's doing, I don't know about you, but that's where I grow. That's where I grow. The depth of who I am today is because of my periods of waiting. And I'm so grateful. Now, in those moments, I'm not always grateful. I'm not. I had this major knee surgery. I went in for a partial knee replacement, came out with a full. I came out singing. I always come out singing from surgery. Usually Christmas songs. I'm very festive. And Jingle Bells is my go-to. It's not very Christ-like, but it's very jaunty. And so I come out singing. Well, no joke, the next 6 weeks are just horrible. And I'm not sleeping, I'm up in the night, and I'm in this period that I know is waiting, and I'm just so not enjoying it. And I'm hating it. And then a wise friend said to me, he said, Mel, you need to lament. It's okay to not like where you're at. And I got such freedom out of that. So I'd wake up in the night and I'd be like, okay, Lord, I'm lamenting. This is stupid. And here's what I hate about it. But you know what? It was great because I was able to talk to God and he's like, I know. And I learned this whole new depth of the character of God that I think he's just in the sunshine, but he's in the darkness. And he never slept when I was not sleeping. He was always there. And so we find this great depth of what we find. Psalm 27:14 says, wait for the Lord, be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for the Lord. It's really hard to think we need courage to just stand still, frozen in place. Scripturally, theologically, it means to keep walking. It means to keep going, and it's hard. So in the waiting, What do we do in the waiting? How many of you could probably just maybe give me an awkward wink saying, I'm in the waiting right now? Okay, I can't see any of you. Maybe just put your finger up if you feel. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So what do we do in the waiting? What do we do? I'm going to give you a couple things. First of all, fall in love with Jesus. And that sounds weird, but fall in love with Jesus. You know, I do not regret a minute of my waiting for a husband. I really don't. And let me just say, I wasn't waiting in the sense like, he's coming any minute. Any minute. No, I am in my 30s. Okay, I am old. He was not coming any minute. But I do not regret pursuing God fully. And what I did was like, God, I'm going to run hard after you. And if you bring someone alongside, great. But I am not turning back for someone. I am not going to walk backwards for someone because this is what you've called me to be. And there were days where I thought, boy, I just learned a really big lesson. I hope whoever he is getting this too. Like, boy, he's going to have to be real spiritually mature to match me. Yeah, I know. I'm a little full of myself sometimes. But you have those thoughts where you're like, oh, and I'm like, well, I've done all this world traveling. I hope and I realize suddenly now I'm married to this guy that really half of that stuff I worried about didn't matter because he loves Jesus and he pursues him. And the greatest thing about that is that he loves Jesus and pursues Jesus. That's the best part of our relationship. Because I'll be like, you are not nice right now. Go talk to Jesus. And it's great because he will and I will. And we come back and go, we are dumb. Let's go ahead and talk about that. But I don't regret my waiting. And I literally I've been to over 30 countries. And I lived overseas and I taught kids. I lived in Florida. I lived in Idaho. And I have done some amazing things that I'm not saying couldn't have happened while married, but I am saying God opened doors that probably wouldn't have been open had I been married. And every summer for the last 6 summers, I've spent it at kids' camps. And I sit and I hang out with kids and I hear their stories, and I wonder what that's going to look like now that I'm married. It'll be different. God can still use it. I'm not worried about that, but it'll be different. Gone are the days where I bunk with the girls, because I have this hairy man now that can't be there. He's a little hairy, just saying. But in fact, that's how he led the first time we FaceTimed. You guys are really awkward sometimes. And he describes it like he had this great stuff he was going to say, and then the one thing he swore he'd never say came out. And so we start FaceTiming. And the first thing he says to me is, I've had laser hair removal off my back. And I'm sitting in this hotel room, and I'm like, no. I'm trying to play it cool. I'm like, yeah, so have I. No big deal. No, I haven't. But I'm like, just play it cool. Anyways, he's just awkward. So anyways, back up. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. Thankfully, he's at the dentist right now, so he's not hearing any of this. But it's going to look different. But I often would look and go, God, you're so gracious that I get to be here for such a time as this, and I get to be involved in this person's life. I'm so grateful for that. I don't regret my waiting. And I will say this as well. If you're obedient in your waiting, God is going to immensely bless you. And I believe God can bless us anywhere because he's a good God. But some of you are going to give up on waiting because you're too impatient or because you go, it's too hard. God will bless you where you're at, but I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out on a deeper blessing. I don't know that to be true, but I'm pretty positive about that. And we serve a good God, right? Amen, that he will bless you where you're at, whether you make a mistake or not. And I love that he takes our mistakes and they're no longer mistakes because he creates beauty out of them. That's a good God. But I don't regret my waiting. In fact, I often say I would wait all over again if I knew I was waiting for Luis, who's my husband. I would. I'd be super mad about it. Don't make me wrong. Like, seriously, more waiting? But I would wait all over again because he's more than I could have imagined. And yes, I'm still in the love bubble, but I'm also really aware that he's who God designed and brought together with me for a purpose. But while you're waiting, you fall in love with Jesus because he is what matters. And when all else is icky, when all else doesn't make sense, you go back to his word and go, this is what's true. And I'm okay whether my husband is okay or not. My relationship with Jesus is what matters first. So you fall in love with Jesus, you pursue him, you ask him for big things. So many of us live in fear. We're like, oh God, if you wouldn't mind, could you possibly? Ask him for big things. Ask him for big things. Put it out there. Go, God, I'd really love to see this happen someday. And then don't get mad if it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen. but throw it out there. Ask him for big things. Do big things. Can I encourage you to do big things? I love the generation that you guys are because you have a lot of courage. And you live fearlessly in so many ways, and it's beautiful. Do big things. Do things that scare you. And I don't mean stupid stuff, okay? Don't go jump off the falls, okay? Use your brain, but go do big things. Teach overseas this summer. Transfer to a different college when you graduate and go, I'm going to pursue my master's. Whatever. Do big things. Do big things and see what God has. Be completely honest about how you feel in the waiting. You're not surprising God, but be honest with him. And you know what? Honesty, when you're honest with God, it breeds a deeper relationship. And that's really awesome. You can go, okay, God, here I am again. Same thing. And God never gets frustrated that you go back to the same emotion. I love that. People in my life get frustrated with me. Really? You're feeling that way again? Yes. God doesn't care. Or he does care, right? He doesn't get frustrated that I'm there again. He embraces me. He loves me exactly where I'm at. Read, know, and saturate yourself in the Bible. Some of y'all need to spend a lot more time right here. A little less time gaming, a little less time online, and a lot more time right here. Because this is what matters. This is truth. Not only is it truth, but this is God's love letter to you. And it's throughout everywhere. Every part of it is his gift to you. Worship loudly and often. Think about what goes into your mind. I'm a really auditory learner. Is anyone else like that? So if I'm listening to music that maybe doesn't worship the Lord with gladness, it comes out in my head later. So I was speaking last week, and the song, I'm in Canada, the song in my head is, I can't feel my face when I'm with you. And I'm like, seriously? That's the song in my head right now? Now, I'm not saying never listen to secular music. I wouldn't say that because you could go turn my car on right now and I'm a liar. But I am saying worship loudly, and especially when you don't like God. Especially when you don't like waiting, especially when you don't like your season, put worship music and sit. And then start singing it, because that is faith. It's going, God, I don't feel it today, but I'm going to keep walking forward. I don't really even believe this song right now, but I'm going to keep walking forward. Practice joy, and then look for it. Keep count of it and be thankful for it. God gives us joy everywhere. And it's harder to find joy in the waiting, but there's always joy to be found, always. In fact, it becomes kind of like you're a detective, so you just have to sort through. Lastly, I would say this: don't waste your waiting. Don't waste your waiting. How do you waste your waiting? We waste our waiting when we sit down and we refuse to move. When we go, I'm done, I'm just going to wait here. You waste your waiting. You're meant to keep moving. And when we sit and refuse to move, we're just stubborn. We're just stubborn. And so you have to keep moving. Don't waste your waiting and keep moving. You sit down and refuse to move, and it's really hard for anything to come by you. And people don't like to be around you either, because you're stubborn. So don't waste it. We waste our waiting when we diminish how God is using us right now. A lot of times we think, if I just have this happen, if I can get out of this valley, this season, then God can use me over here. That is not true. God is using you right where you're at. Right where you're at right now. Even if you don't like where you're at right now, God is using you. Because we serve a good God. My season of this dumb knee replacement, I'm still in physical therapy. I'm on month 5, which little Susie Ann came back for her second knee replacement already. Like, nobody's supposed to be in physical therapy this long. But my physical therapist doesn't know Jesus. And little by little, I begin to tell him about God. And I've been inviting him to church. And I'm building this relationship with him and his girlfriend. And that's how you don't waste your waiting. Because I really hate the season. I really do. And I leave crying sometimes, not because it hurts, just because I'm mad. And then I'm reminded, this is why I'm still here. Don't diminish how God is using you right now, even in the midst of your waiting. And how you move through your waiting gives honor and glory to God. And it shows your character. I love that God uses us in the waiting. We waste our waiting when our only goal is for the waiting to be over. We're like, if I can just get through this, but here's the deal. The growth and the beauty is found in the struggle, right? That's where we want to be. Not really. That's not really where we want to be, but don't waste it. I mean, so many people who waste their season of waiting because they just want it to be over. Don't waste it. Don't just hope for it to be gone. Go sit and go, God, what do you have for me right now? What do you have that you want to show me right now? And don't allow people to lie to you and tell you that God did this. He put you in this season. That ticks me off. God doesn't cause bad things to happen. He allows things to happen. But then he makes beauty out of it. And I was really sick. I got really sick in 2009 or 8, I don't know. Anyways, I was dying. And people told me, well, God just must be trying to teach you something. Stupid people. Like, I finally started telling them, well, I must be a little mentally challenged then because I apparently can't learn the lesson. Well, the deal is, no, that was not what God was doing. Was God teaching me stuff? Yes. Did God cause that to happen so I could? No. No. But don't just sit and wait for it to be over. Grow where you're at. Be in the season that you're at. We also waste our waiting when we give up or take the easier route. There's always going to be an easier route. Always. There's always going to, and some of you are dating the wrong person right now. And you probably even like deep down in your spirit know it, but you go, but at least I'm dating someone. At least I have someone. That's icky because you are bought with a price. And you are called to greatness. And God desires to bless you and give you greatness. And it is not found in the mediocre. We don't serve a God who creates mediocre. And some of you need to make the hard decision even today to go, I have to walk away from that. Some of you are doing things you shouldn't be doing, and you're wasting your waiting because you don't like where your season is at. But you're not going to like where you're at when that season's over. So don't take the easier route. And I know that's tough to hear. I really know it is. In fact, 2 years ago, I'd met Louise in person. We met online on eHarmony, and I'm one of those people, but I'm not a believer in it. In fact, it's terrifying. But met him, and we finally met in person. He's from Guatemala. And met in person, I was like, oh no, I really like him. Oh no, oh dear. And so God began to tell me, you need to cut things off. And I was like, no, I really like him. And God's like, no, but you need to cut things off. For a month, God said that. And for a month, I was like, no. And I was so annoyed because I was like, Lord, you're interrupting my time in the Word to bring me a word I don't care to hear right now. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever been there? Like, Lord. And so finally I wake up after a month. I had every good excuse. I wake up in my bed. I live in Iowa. Wake up, open my eyes, and God audibly says to me, you are being disobedient. And I was like, oh, dear. Dang it. And I literally got up, and I got on FaceTime, and I told Luis it was over. And I said, we can't do this. I have to be obedient to God. I don't want to be, but I have to be. And I said, you need to date people. I need to date people. We are not meant to be. And if we are meant to be, God can bring us back together. But for right now, we can't. And we took six months away from each other. He calls it the dark ages. But what I loved about him, and I began to fall in love with him because he respected me. And he broke off all communication with me. And then I was like, but don't you like me anymore? And he's like, women are so weird. True. You know, like I had asked him not to talk to me, and then he didn't, and then I was hurt, okay? Women, I'm sorry, guys, we're obnoxious, and I'm aware of it. But here's the cool thing. It was so hard, and I didn't do it thinking, someday God will bring us back together. I did it going, that was a nice season, but we can't. And God, 6 months later, began to open doors and say, I want you to pursue this. There are times you just need to walk away, and you need to trust that God's plan is perfect, because it is. And you are not going to see forever, and thank goodness that you can't, because if you could, you wouldn't need Christ. And so you live in this, I don't know, but would you just follow him? Yeah, I know you're in the waiting. I know you are. And here's the deal. When the waiting is over, it's a cruel joke, because you're always waiting for something. You're going to think, I was like, oh, I'm finally married. And my insurance company left a message saying, welcome to the Mommies to Be Club. We're calling about your pregnancy. I'm like, what? First of all, not pregnant. Second of all, now everyone wants me to be pregnant. And I'm like, give me a break. I just got married 6 weeks ago. And that was quite the accomplishment. But there's always something you're going to be waiting for. And so it never gets to the point, because we live in a fallen world. We're never complete here. You're always going to be waiting for something. But what you do in the waiting, do you keep moving forward in the waiting? What does that look like for you? Bow your heads. I can speak from up here, and I can tell you my story and I can be super honest, but it doesn't matter if you don't allow God to speak to you. My words are nothing if they're not inspired by him. And even if they're inspired by him, if your soul is dry, if your heart is closed, it doesn't matter. So would you sit for a moment in silence and go, God, what do you have for me? What do I need to hear from this? God, for each one here, God, we come to you with arms open. And I know there's some in the room whose arms are crossed and they're like, not today, and that's okay. But God, for those that needed to hear this, would you meet us where we're at? God, thank you that we never have to climb to you, you come to us. Would you meet us where we're at? For those in the waiting in this room, God, would you bring comfort? Would you bring peace? Would you bring purpose? Would you bring joy? Would you bring all of the good things that you love to give us? And may we not ignore them, but recognize them because they were there all along. So in the waiting, may we move forward. May we fall more in love with you. May we trust you deeper. May we come to know you better. Do what you need to do in us so you can work through us. God, thanks for meeting us here. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. You are dismissed. Have a good day.